Welcome back to the 2024 NCAA bracket predictions from King's Film Sports, and let's get right into it with the East region, and I'm going to be making predictions for every game, and let's get right into it. So just to preface, this season I will have every 15 and 16 seed losing, so we won't go into any of those matchups. I'll just advance those teams, and then we'll talk about them in the next round. So UConn I have beating Stetson. Then we've got our first interesting matchup, FAU against Northwestern. A lot of people were shocked by FAU at the 8 seed with multiple quad 4 losses. There seemed to be some interesting treatment of some of these teams by the committee, especially some of these name brands. FAU, Virginia comes to mind just off the top of my head. And then there's some absolutely interesting seed lines. But anyways, I have Northwestern winning this game. I could see this one going either way. I haven't loved how FAU has played, but I like Northwestern to win this. Northwestern has absolutely been terrible these last few weeks. Honestly, surprised they got a 9 seed, just got wiped out by a Wisconsin team that did get hot. But yeah, I like Northwestern to win here against FAU. FAU was arguably more terrible down the stretch. That loss to Temple was just everything I needed to see. FAU is a very erratic team, and I like Northwestern to win that one. But honestly, I could see it either way. And some of the brackets I predict, I'll just have either team winning because I have honestly no idea who will win that one. Then we've got San Diego State against a tough UAB team. This is an interesting draw here, but I don't love UAB this season. Good on them for winning the American Conference tournament, but I like San Diego State to win here after that tough loss in the Mountain West Championship. Then we've got Auburn against a resilient Yale, barely beat Brown. And while I do respect Yale as a team here, Auburn just too powerful. Finally got those road woes off of their back with the neutral site win of the SEC championship. But honestly, if you look at Auburn's path, it was a little concerning. They didn't really have to play any of the big dogs in the SEC. No top 4 seed besides them did they have to play, but I like them to easily dispatch of the Yale Bulldogs here. Then we've got very interesting seeding game, BYU at the 6 against Duquesne at the 11, and I like BYU to win this by double digits, maybe even 20 or 30 plus. Duquesne, how are they an 11 seed? I don't really know. They must have been the last one. I haven't actually taken a look at the committee's 1 through 68 ratings, but my goodness, Duquesne and New Mexico being on the same seed line, Duquesne and NC State, I mean, this is just horrible. I don't really know how else to describe it. Duquesne is a very fraudulent team, and I mean, they were lucky to get through the A10, but my goodness, I don't know how they're an 11. BYU at the 6, I really like them here. And despite a tough loss in the Big 12 tournament, I think that they can dispatch of Duquesne here. Then we've got Illinois against Morehead State. And I'm going to pick a 14-3. I've done this way too much over the past few years. And I told myself I wasn't going to do it. But I thought Morehead would be on the 13 line, to be honest. And then they just get this perfect matchup against the Illinois team that might come off sleeping from that Big 10 championship run. A lot of people are going to have Illinois going really far because of these championships. But I know that usually these teams that win the conference championships do not perform as well in March Madness. It's more of the teams that get to the semifinals and finals that perform the best. Morehead State, what do I like in them that can beat this Illinois loaded squad with the mask and Terrence Shannon? I like that Morehead State plays very slow, 350th plus in adjusted tempo, so they play a very slow game, muck it down. That's good for an upset pick. They shoot a lot of threes. If they can get hot on this night, 9 times in 10, they're not going to win this game, but they have all the tools to win if they can have a hot shooting night. Also a problem for this 14 seed, they turn the ball over a ton. But you know what Illinois doesn't do? They don't force turnovers. I like Morehead State to win this. I will almost certainly be betting at ATS, but we'll see what happens there. I've got a little chaos going in that one. Then we've got Washington State against Drake. Tough matchup for the Cougs. A Drake team that's hot, hasn't played for 2 weeks against a Washington State team that I do respect, but I think it is a tough game, and I like the value with the 3 seed upset here. I'll go with Drake to win that one there. Then Iowa State, of course, advancing to the next round. And we'll just keep it going with this quadrant. UConn, I like them to easily dispatch of whoever they play in this matchup. I will say that both of these teams have a bit of upward upset potential. Northwestern notably beat Purdue on their home court this year. And FAU, of course, beat Arizona on the neutral floor. So either of those teams I could see playing up and down to their competition. Not sure who's going to win that first matchup, though, so I'll be safe and pick UConn to win there. They just look like a buzzsaw going through the Big East. And unlike some of these other tournament champions, I'm not going to pick against them for a while here. Then we've got SDSU against Auburn, and this is where I was kind of hinting at my disdain towards Auburn here. I don't like that they were only placed on the 4 line, but I do think that they could get trapped here. A lot of people will have them going further. SEC, one of the best conferences in the nation, no doubt. But Auburn has struggled on the road for the vast majority of the year, and I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid from these conference tournaments completely. I think that, they are a lot more random, and when you look at their path, they really didn't have to play very many excellent opponents. South Carolina first, then Mississippi State. They're on the 8 line. Then you've got a fraudulent South Carolina team. We'll get to them later. I like San Diego State to muck this game down, force Auburn, into these tough possessions, and Auburn, they've been a really up and down team this year. You guys can't say that I'm not giving them the love, though, because I already predicted them to win the SEC tournament. I'll hedge my bets. Give SDSU the win here. Ladie Powell, Saunders, I like them to bring down Janai Broom and this Auburn team that, of course, very talented, very highly rated, but I think that they're running a little too hot right now. I like SDSU to bring them down. Then we've got BYU against Moorhead. I like BYU to beat them by 1,000,000. If it is BYU against Illinois, I still like BYU to win. BYU, very up and down team as well, but they usually just blow out these inferior opponents. You saw that a lot in the non-conference, people complaining about them juicing their net ranking with those blowouts. I like BYU to easily win there. I think BYU can speed up some of these teams. Of course, BYU shoots a lot of threes too, so I could see Moorhead making the 2-round run, but either way, whether it's against Illinois or Moorhead, I like BYU to win there. Then we've got Drake against Iowa State. I like Iowa State to end it for the Bulldogs there. Of course, coming off that Big 12 tournament run, kind of interesting in this quadrant. You've got 4 of the arguably the best tournament champions: Illinois winning the Big 10, Iowa State winning the Big 12, Auburn winning the SEC, and then UConn winning the Big East, all in the same quadrant. I think it's a pretty stacked quadrant, but I have quite a bit of chaos here. Not in this game, though. I like Iowa State to beat Drake there. Then we've got the 6-2 Iowa State BYU, and this is a pure value play. BYU almost just won in Hilton, but Iowa State pulled off the Hilton magic. I think if BYU gets back at them, shoots a little bit better down the stretch, I think that they can control these games more and makes it to the Elite Eight. So that's one of my shocker picks into the Elite Eight. Then we've got UConn against San Diego State. And I think this game's much different whether it's UConn playing Auburn or San Diego State, but I still like UConn to win easily against either one of them. San Diego State can muddle the game down, but I'm concerned about their scoring against this UConn team that seems to just be able to play very efficiently on the offensive and defensive ends, and they just got up to number 1 in KenPom after that Houston blowout loss to Iowa State, so I like UConn to win there. And then, if BYU does make it this far, congratulations to them, but I do not like their chances against the number 1 seed Huskies here. Give me UConn to the Final Four. Now we move to the South region, where Nebraska against Texas A&M for the chance to face Houston. I've got Texas A&M winning this. Both teams tried to make little runs in their conference tournaments. Nebraska from the 3 seed. A&M was 100-1 in the SEC. Both got stopped in the semifinals. I like the Aggies to win this one, but I wouldn't be surprised in a lot of these 8-9 matchups if it went either way. The Aggies always like making these late runs in the tournament, and last year they got stopped by Penn State in the 7-10. Let's see if it happens again at the hands of a Big Ten opponent, but I like Texas A&M to win this one, where they would play Houston, and these two already played this year, and Texas A&M was actually the first team that was down big to Houston and actually made it a close game. Usually when you're down 20 to Houston, it feels like 40, but Texas A&M actually made it again game, and for that reason, I actually considered picking them here, but I'm actually going to go with Houston here. One of these 1 seeds I feel like will be knocked off by an 8-9, but I don't think it'll happen here. I like Houston to win that one there. Then we've got Wisconsin against James Madison. Wisconsin tried to right their season, got back up to the 5 seed. That was pretty shocking to me, to be honest. But they did have an excellent Big Ten tournament, knocking off Purdue there. I like JMU to actually pull off the upset here. Again, those woes down the stretch for Wisconsin, they haven't gone away in my mind, and I still don't really like what this team is bringing forward. JMU already beat Michigan State on the road and didn't get many chances to play these marquee out-of-conference games. And they just cruise through the Sun Belt. James Madison's going to be a very popular pick here, and I'll ride with it. Let's go JMU there. Then Duke against Vermont. This is not your Vermont teams of old. They are in about the same seed line, but I like Duke to win this one by 30 or 40. A tough first-round loss in the ACC tournament at the hands of NC State for Duke, but I like them to bounce back with a big win over the Catamounts here. Then we've got an interesting 6-11 Texas Tech against NC State, and after that NC State run that they just had, beating 2 top 4 seeds in UNC and Duke, a lot of people will be picking them here. Texas Tech had a decent run at it as well. I like Texas Tech to win just off the strength of their whole season. I like their guard play up front with Toussaint and Pop Isaacs. NC State, they like to bang down low with DJ Burns. They've got Horn, they've got O'Connell in there as well. But I like Texas Tech to win this one. I could see that one going either way again. Remember, NC State was on that 11 line last year. Didn't really give too much of a fight. I think it was about a 10-point game with Creighton there. But I like Texas Tech to win that game. Then we've got Kentucky, Oakland. Oakland, vastly overrated. I'm surprised they're not the 15 seed here. I like Kentucky to win by 1,000,000. The thing with Kentucky, though, they don't play defense, so if Oakland somehow gets hot, then maybe Kentucky would lose. I think there will just be too many possessions. Kentucky's too efficient at scoring the ball, so I like Kentucky there. Then we've got Florida against Boise State and Colorado. Colorado actually ranked above Florida in KenPom, so if Colorado actually dispatches of Boise State in that first 4 game, which I think they will do, I might consider sprinkling them in a few brackets, but Florida's just been too powerful as of late. Yes, I know they lost by 20 to Auburn in the final. That's fine. So I'm going with Florida here, but I could see it going either way. I don't think Boise State has a chance to get out of these 3 teams there. Need to win 2 games against 2 just tough opponents. Boise State, a little bit fraudulent, but then they're on the 10 line in the last 4 in, so I think they've kind of tempered expectations enough, the committee has, to where, this wouldn't be a very tough out for Boise State. Then the team I think might be in trouble is Marquette here against Florida. I think that Florida can win. Korlick or not, he probably won't be 100%. I like Florida to roll past them here, and that would set up what I think would be a rematch with Kentucky. I think Kentucky would dispatch Texas Tech in that game. Texas Tech, just hasn't fared as well against these top teams, especially down the stretch of the season. I like Kentucky to win that one there. So Kentucky, Florida, instant rematch of what happened in the SEC tournament. And what I'm talking about Kentucky as a little bit of a fraudulent team here, just not playing defense. But then they lost in the SEC tournament to Florida, and it's hard to beat a team just twice in a row instantly. Kentucky's actually lost to Florida twice now. I like Kentucky to rebound and then make it to the Elite Eight. So then we've got that Houston-Kentucky matchup, UH versus UK. I like Houston to win it there. Too much defense. Kentucky, if they can just shoot very well, I think they can win that, but I like Houston there. And let's move to the bottom of the bracket, where we will go to the West first and North Carolina against two dangerous 8-9 seeds. I really wish they didn't have to play each other in Mississippi State against Michigan State. I'll go with Mississippi State here. Just knocked off Tennessee. Michigan State played Purdue pretty tough after beating Minnesota, but I really just don't trust this Michigan State team. It's not even, the talent level they have. Izzo hasn't been that great of a coach this year, just to be completely honest with you guys. And also, they're not dealing with 100% healthy Walker. I like Mississippi State to win this one and play North Carolina in a very dangerous match there. We'll get to that one in a bit. Now another dangerous one, St. Mary's against 12-seed Grand Canyon. This one's in Spokane, is something to look at, and that ultimately made the difference for me. I like St. Mary's to go back into Spokane, where they've already won this year at Gonzaga, just about a 5-minute drive away from Gonzaga's campus there. I like St. Mary's to win that against a Grand Canyon team that's been dangerous this year. They already beat SDSU at home, not to mention the concerns I have about St. Mary's out of conference and how bad that was. They kind of just juiced the seed line by winning in conference, but that win against Gonzaga in the WCC final kind of changed what my prevailing thoughts about this team were. If they would have lost in that one, obviously they would have been a lower seed and had a tougher matchup with an 11. This still is a tough matchup, but I like St. Mary's, Aiden Mahaney, Mitchell Saxon, and co. to win there. Then we've got Bama, Charleston. Cross-country flight for both of these teams. I like Alabama to win here pretty easily. I think Charleston might be a little overrated after what happened last year. Just a lot of people will maybe pick them. And Alabama, by no means, has had a good end of the season. In fact, they are dead last in how they performed over the last 8 to 10 games of their season versus their performance before that. They are definitely on upset watch. Both of these 5-4 games are. I could see it going either way. Charleston just hasn't been as good this year, so I'm going to give it to Bama, but then I'll give them their end in the next game. St. Mary's, again, I expect them to heavily have the fan advantage here. The Bama fans travel well, but this is across the country. They're probably going to discount St. Mary's here. I like St. Mary's to win. Just defend Bama. As you saw in the Tennessee-Bama game, they can get dragged down, and they just haven't been playing well at all. That's mostly where this comes from, so I like St. Mary's to advance to the Sweet 16 there. Then we've got Mississippi State against North Carolina. And I like things to end here for North Carolina. That game against NC State did not look great for them, and I like Mississippi State to win here. The one element of pause I have here for Mississippi State, number one, it's the first round game, which is very tough for them. The second is they tend to get sped up by these teams. For some reason, they're trying to score 95 points against Tennessee and Kentucky when they really don't have to. Just go back to your roots and play defense. I think they can do that here and beat this North Carolina team here. Then we've got Clemson against New Mexico, and I think New Mexico should be favored here as the 11 seed, so I'm going to pick them. Beautiful run in the Mountain West tournament, and it appeared from how bearish the committee was on the Mountain West that they actually needed to win that game against SDSU. Thank goodness they did, because I think they are primed to make a run here. Great back front court, and I honestly like their starting five over Clemson here. PJ Hall, Shefflin, both good players for Clemson, but I think New Mexico just has too much, especially if they're playing well, which they are right now. We've got Baylor against Colgate. I'm looking to back Baylor on the spread here. I think they could win by 30, 40 plus. Colgate, they've had a lot of teams on this 14 line. Sometimes they've given teams a fight, notably that Arkansas game a few years ago. I think it was 3 points with like 7-8 minutes left. Keegan Records and co. this year, though, they're just horrible, and they just can bully these Patriot League teams by just giving it to Records and having him just go in against these teams. But Baylor, I think they're a little underrated here. Obviously lost to Big 12 champ Iowa State. Did well to win against Cincinnati, but they're getting Langston Love back to 100% here. I like them to win by 30. But then in that matchup against New Mexico, I think New Mexico can win. I like the value of them as an 11 seed. I just think the power rating's a little off there. They're about 23 in my estimation there. And then Baylor, they're in the top 15 for sure. The Bears could easily win and make a run here, but I like New Mexico to make it to the Sweet 16 there. Then Dayton against Nevada, and I'm bearish on Dayton. They do not play very fast, so that makes them primed for an upset here. Nevada, I know they lost in the first round of that Mountain West tournament. I was questioning whether they'd even get in now once I saw that Colorado State was in the first four. And so they do, and Jared Lucas, Blackshear, and co., I think that they can beat this Dayton team that, choked in the A-10. I am really starting to question that Dayton resume, and I was not sure that they were as safe as people thought they were. Dropped from, I think they were a 4 seed at one point, now to a 7. I like Nevada and the Wolfpack to end it for them there. And they would play Arizona. I like Arizona to beat Nevada there. I know it was a tough loss against an Oregon team that was, fighting for their lives. I think Arizona gave a lot against USC in that 20-point win there. I like Arizona to win that game. I think it's a good matchup for them against Nevada. I think that Caleb Love and co. can dispatch of the Wolfpack there, and then they get to play another Mountain West teams. So this is just a really easy path that I'm giving Arizona here. I like Arizona to win. New Mexico playing their best ball of the season. They've got House, Mashburn, Amzil, and they have just a really stacked starting lineup. JT Toppin as well. But I like Arizona. I think just the talent gap is too much. I think Arizona can D them up better, but I like a high-scoring game here. 90 to 87, something like that. This will be an absolute thriller, back and forth. But I think Arizona will win that game more often than not. Then Mississippi State against St. Mary's. I hope this game is just the complete polar opposite from that New Mexico Zona game out in Los Angeles. I want just a 60 to 60 bare knuckle brawl here, and that's what I think we'll get. St. Mary's, they started to shoot better in that WCC tournament, but before that, they were having trouble against the top tier teams in the WCC like USF and Gonzaga, but I like them to beat Mississippi State. If Mississippi State can even get this far to play Arizona, then I like Arizona to easily dispatch them there. Again, just too many concerns for me with St. Mary's out of conference. If they even make it this far, I think that they will just have run out in the tank and lose to Arizona there. So then let's move on to the Midwest, our final quadrant, and Purdue against the winner of Utah State TCU. I'm surprised that TCU was this far up and Utah State conversely this far down. I wanted to fade Utah State in a 5-12 match or a 6-11, but when you give me this 8-9, then, I actually start to think that they're, a little underrated here. Won one game in the Mountain West tournament that kind of got wiped by San Diego State, but I think this is a better team than the committee really gave him credit for here. TCU has been up and down recently, to say the least. I like Great Osobor, this Utah State team, to get through, and then I want to see that Great Osobor against Zach Edey matchup. I think Purdue wins that game a lot, but I really want to see that big matchup in the second round. So give me the Aggies in the first round, Purdue in the second. Then we've got Gonzaga McNeese and Kansas Samford. I'm going to address both of these at once. I hope that McCullough and Dickinson get back to full strength. I really think they will be for Kansas, so I think a lot of people will be overpicking Samford in that one. Samford just not a very good team. They like to really get out and run. That game could have a lot of points in it, but I don't think Samford can keep up. That's going to be dangerous for an upset pick if they're playing that fast. Same thing with McNeese. They just can't score with Gonzaga. Gonzaga, that game against Kentucky was very impressive. McNeese, a lot of people will pick them too, but I think just at the end of the day, you look up and Gonzaga just has 90 and you have 75 and you're down 15. What's good about that is you can come back from any deficit in quick order if you can actually play defense. I just like Graham Ike to get it going for Gonzaga, get it distribute out to the rest of the guards. I think they'll have a good shooting night, and I think they'll beat the Pokes there. But in case they don't, I'll hedge by having Kansas win in the second round to set up a game against Purdue for them, and I think Purdue would win that one. These teams didn't play in the regular season, but I just like Purdue to win here. Kansas, a little shaky down the stretch. The 30-point loss at Houston, the team was marred by injuries. If they get this far, that shouldn't really be an issue. Unless they get lucky and get to play Samford and then McNeese, but I like Purdue to end them in their hopes there. Then South Carolina against Oregon. Again, I've been licking my chops at this spot all season, but then all these bid thieves come in and steal the 11 seed spots. It's very interesting. 5 bid thieves, what it ended up being with New Mexico there, pushes those first 4 games to the 10 line, which I don't think we've seen before. South Carolina against Oregon. I've been licking my chops at this spot. I like Oregon and Folly Dante and the Ducks to win this one here. I really have not liked South Carolina over the course of the season. That's why I liked Auburn's path in that SEC tournament so much. South Carolina, very fraudulent team. They have some good wins. I wish that they saved that run for the tournament, because as an 11 seed, they may have been able to make a run if they just saved, those wins over Tennessee, Kentucky, all those teams just for right now, but they already used that good luck, I think, and I think they'll get upset by the 11 seed here in Oregon. Then we have Creighton against Akron. I like the Blue Jays to get it done easily there. Akron, not a good team out of the MAC. Barely won, probably should have lost to Kent State. Some of these teams, though, that really should have lost or did lose in their conference tournaments end up doing well in March Madness, so we'll see what happens there. Creighton could be better, but I like them to win that game there. Then we've got Texas against Virginia against Colorado State. And Colorado State, I expect to wipe Virginia by 30. Maybe it's 45 to 75. I mean, this Virginia team is terrible. They cannot score the ball. They play decent defense, but yeah, that's not good. If Virginia somehow wins that game, then maybe I'll revert back to Texas. But Texas also a team I've been looking to fade, so I like an easy 2-game run for Colorado State. Get them some momentum heading into that Tennessee game. And a lot of people will be picking against Tennessee because of what they did in that SEC tournament, just losing straight out to Mississippi State. They also lost to Kentucky in their last game of the season. So the 2 straight losses I don't like. I could see Colorado State winning. I reserve the right to change this if Colorado State actually does win the first 4. But I like Tennessee to win that one there. And then they would play Creighton, who I think will get through Oregon in the second round there. Creighton's been up and down, lost to St. John's at the Garden. In the Big East tournament, of course, they lost to a Providence team that didn't make the dance. So I could see that one either way. But I'll give Creighton the benefit of the doubt there to give us our 1, 2, 3, 4 in that quadrant. And then I like Tennessee to wipe away Creighton. Again, this could be a run for Colorado State. Say they get to play Oregon in that Sweet 16. I'll definitely have that happening in a couple brackets just for the value. I could see that one. Then you get an Elite 8 double-digit seed. But in my official bracket, I don't think I can be quite that bold. I like Tennessee to play Purdue. And then I like Tennessee to actually beat Purdue. Remember, these two teams already played in, I believe, the Maui Gym. Purdue wins by 4. I like Tennessee to get revenge here, make it to the Final Four. So then we've got UConn against Arizona. I like UConn to win that one easily there, even though, I kind of questioned doing that because it is in Phoenix, which is essentially a home game for Arizona. There will be a lot of Arizona fans there, but I ended up going against it just because these Final Four games are usually more even, than you'd think from the just where it's played. So I'll go with UConn there to play against Houston, and I'll actually pick Houston to win my national championship. A lot of people I feel will be down on them after they lost in that Big 12 semifinal. A lot of people will be in on UConn after they lost last year. I like the value picking Houston, but I can see the same thing with Purdue, maybe even UNC, although UNC gets that blue blood bias. So I like Houston to win here. I think they'll muddle down the game, and if they just get a good shooting night, that's what it comes down to. Houston shoots it horribly, but every once in a while they can pop off and win. I expect a better performance from them than they got in that Iowa State game, and I think by the time this game happens on April 8th, they will be fully healthy. They've been needing to get a couple players back for a while. So those are my predictions. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave your predictions below.